So today what we're making is lamb shanks. These lamb shanks are the most wholesome, tasty, delicious, succulent meal that you can actually have. It is my absolute favorite. It's the middle of summer here, but I will never ever in any degree Celsius or Fahrenheit heat choose to turn down these beautiful lamb shanks. So what we're going to need is all of our aromatics, which is celery. The celery has already been washed. Try and get all the stalks off it if you can. You don't want any leaves in there. And I'm just going to roughly chop the celery so that it is spread out within the broth that the lamb shanks are going to braise in. So that was 5 whole stalks of celery. Just going to put it into a bowl aside so that I can mix everything together once the lamb shank goes in. Then I'm going to grab a bunch of carrots. I've got these beautiful organic carrots from the market. And I'm going to choose a bunch of colors because the carrots will eventually find themselves onto the main plates of everybody eating. So I like for there to be a variation in color. With this variation in color also, on the orange side I have beta carotene, and on the purple side I have a whole bunch of polyphenols. So we're getting pretty much yellow, we're getting orange, and we're getting purple into this meal, as well as green with the celery. So we're just adding to the amount of colors that we're ingesting every day, which is going to make your gut microbiome really happy. So I just top and tail all of the carrots. And then in a similar size to the celery, I'm just going to roughly chop the carrots again so they are nicely dispersed within the broth. Carrots just give any broth so much flavor. So I've got celery, I've got carrots, and I've got a red onion over here. That is pretty much the trifecta of aromatics when you're cooking. Celery, carrots, and onions make the perfect trio to make any dish come to life. Whether it's a soup, whether it's something braised, pretty much anything. And my carrots contain a huge amount of sulfur, which we're after. Sulfur is really good for your gut microbiome. And I chose the red onions. They're just a bit sweeter, so they'll add a bit of sweetness to the broth. You don't have to be meticulous about how you're chopping this. It all just needs to be in smaller pieces, just so that it surrounds the lamb shank. And finally, garlic, which is full of sulfur and absolutely amazing for the recipe. I feel like lamb and garlic go together so well. We make a roast leg of lamb, and when we are about to cook it, we get a small paring knife and pop whole garlic cloves into the leg of lamb, and it just imparts a flavor throughout all of the muscles of that particular cut of meat. So I'm going to get a saucepan and I'm going to start preheating it for now. And I'm going to grab my lamb shank. This particular lamb shank is 1.1 kilograms, so it's quite a big lamb shank. It almost looks like a leg of lamb. I had to double check what I was purchasing, but I got a beautiful large lamb shank. You can already feel when you're working with lamb shank how soft and how malleable the muscle fibers are. It's a very fatty cut of meat, and that's what we're after. The fat goes, it dissolves into the broth and makes the most beautiful end result of a gravy. And my pan is slowly starting to heat. I'm just going to grab a bit of butter. I like butter as it imparts a super nutty flavor once it starts getting really hot into the lamb. So I'm just going to grab a little slice of butter here and pop it onto the pan. It's going to dissolve really quickly or melt really quickly. And I want to take my lamb shank and I'm going to put it into this hot frying pan. The reason I'm doing this is to seal the outside of the entire lamb shank, so then when it's cooking, all of the moisture stays within the cuts. And it just smells like delicious burning butter. On the other side, if you can get hold of these stock cubes, they are absolutely amazing. Callow organic stock cubes, and they have no gluten, no lactose, and none of the other nasties that get put into most stock cubes. I have pre-boiled a kettle, and I'm going to grab my organic mushroom stock cube and place some boiling water into a cup with the cube so that it can start dissolving and that can go into the broth. Now it doesn't matter what stock cube flavor you use, whichever you prefer. You could use beef, vegetable, chicken. I in particular have used a mushroom stock. I just find that it gives a much more earthy flavor to the end result of this recipe. And I just slowly but surely am starting to seal the edges of this lamb shank. It also starts rendering the fat of the lamb shank so that it melts down beautifully within the broth. So I've managed to brown all sides of this lamb shank. And I've got it doused in that beautiful nutty burned butter. And what I want to do is get a deep pan or deep dish that I can put this lamb shank into and surround by all of the carrots, celery, onions, so that it all sits around the lamb shank in a liquid. It's like a long bath of deliciousness. So it's beautifully browned there. I'm just going to get what remaining butter I have and pour it over that lamb shank. And then I'm going to grab a whole bunch of Celtic salt and salt the lamb. And of course, a generous pinch of black pepper. So it's beautifully seasoned. So with this deep dished, I'm going to get my mixture of garlic, carrots, celery, and onions. And I'm gonna just scatter it lightly around the whole lamb shank. Making sure that there's carrots all around. I couldn't find fresh thyme, so I'm just going to be using a dried thyme and pop it all over the lamb and the aromatics. And then I've got beautiful fresh rosemary. Rosemary and thyme are just beautiful with any lamb dish. And garlic, of course. So I'll get a whole sprig or two of rosemary. And those will be put into the dish. Any last stragglers of rosemary can definitely be put into the dish. And I'm just going to stir up my mushroom stock cube, which has been dissolving in this cup of boiling water. These callow organic stock cubes are just wonderful. I've got some leftover stock in the cup, and I don't want to lose any of those beautiful flavors, so I'll make sure that it's wonderfully incorporated. Then I'm going to have a tin of tinned plum tomatoes, organic of course. Quite a difficult tin to open. And I'm going to spread this all throughout the recipe. These are still full tomatoes, if you will, and as they cook for the long, low and slow cook, they'll explode with flavor and impart that flavor into the lamb. Again, as far as you can, try and source organic meats, pasture-raised meats, rather than your more commercial type meats. So all my beautiful lamb shank is ready in this broth. The broth is reaching almost 3/4 full in terms of where the lamb shank is sitting in the broth. You are welcome to wiggle it around and make sure that the aromatics are getting everywhere. But that's pretty much ready to go. I do have some salt on the meat, and there is some salt in the organic mushroom stock cubes, but I, for extra measure, am just going to do a generous pinch of salt over the broth, because the broth is what really gets into that meat. So 2 generous pinches of Celtic salt and a generous pinch of black pepper. Now, what I want to do, because I'm cooking this low and slow, I want to cover it so that all the moisture is kept inside. So I'm going to grab some aluminum foil, aluminium, as we say in my country. And with the shiny side towards the meat, I'm just going to fully cover the cooking dish. Please make sure it's quite tight so that no liquid is escaping. I'll almost just roll it around the edges. It's not as easy to wrap things around glass dishes, unfortunately. All the metal ones have those beautiful rims and edges we can tuck tinfoil around, but I prefer to use glass, and I'm making the migration to glass and getting rid of all metals and all plastics as I can. Now I'm going to set my oven at 140 degrees Celsius. And this recipe is going to cook for between 6 and 10 hours. I'm just going to play it by ear as I work through it. So at 6 hours, I'm going to check what it's like. If it's already starting to fall apart, it means that I'm happy to take that out. I can let it rest and then warm it up just before I serve it. If it's still feeling a little bit tough in terms of coming off the bone, you would like to put it in for maybe another hour or two. You just have to play around with it. But 140 to 160 degrees Celsius at between 6 and 8 hours. Something that I didn't mention earlier is that a nice cup of red wine is always great to put in a recipe like this. So please do put a cup of red wine if your heart so desires. It definitely brings out a much more rounded and hearty flavor. So my lamb shanks have been in the oven for a solid 8 hours at 140 to 150 degrees. They are looking absolutely incredible. All of the liquid has now evaporated, and all I'm left with are those beautiful root vegetables, celery, and all the delicious goodness. And it's almost got the consistency of a gravy. I have turned it once or twice as I've been cooking. And if I grab it with a pair of tongs, I'm unable to actually turn it over because it falls apart. It's like butter. So I'm just going to put this back in a warm oven. It's not on, it's just cooling down. And I've switched the heat off. And that is pretty much ready to go. Now I'm going to be making some mashed potatoes to go with this. So I'm just going to grab a dustbin bowl. In this bowl, I'm making a beautiful salad. It's going to be a root vegetable salad. So it's going to have air fried carrot batons. At the moment in the air fryer, we have some beetroot, and then I'm going to have beautiful baby leaves and some burrata cheese. I'm also going to do some barley wheat with the salad. So we have all the root vegetables. We've got a protein in terms of the lamb. We've got a carbohydrate in terms of mashed potatoes. And there's a carbohydrate also in the salad, as I don't eat potatoes. My guest does though. I'm gonna just peel these potatoes. Definitely on the shopping list is a new peeler. And I'm just going to grab a knife and chop the potatoes into quarters so that they cook nice and quickly in the boiling water. Those can go straight into a saucepan. And again into quarters. I originally pulled 4 potatoes, but I'm just going to be doing 3. It's for one person with leftovers now on the floor. Nice little wash. My floors have just been cleaned, so I'm not too worried. and cut into quarters there again. And I'm just going to get some water into the saucepan, hot water, and get it on the heat. High heat. I'm definitely going to need a pinch of salt, Celtic salt in this water. So my beautiful beetroots that I've just popped into the air fryer are ready to go. I'm just going to get those in a container to cool down. They're really nice and crispy and beautiful. I'll put some of these in the salad, and then the rest of them will be used for the rest of the week in salads or breakfasts. And then in a separate bowl, I have some carrot batons that I have tossed in olive oil, salt and pepper. And I'm going to take those to the air fryer. Set them in the air fryer at 180 degrees. I'm going to start at 20 minutes because I think that should be good. And I'll just keep an eye on them. If they need to be taken out earlier, I do not want them to get burned, but I definitely do want them nice and golden brown on the outside. So I'm going to start putting this little salad together. I've got these beautiful, delicious, it's a micro leaf salad. So you'll see that all the leaves are really small. And there's about 8 or 9 varieties of different leaves here. So that is just wonderful. We're getting variety in terms of color and in terms of different species. Then, in my fridge, I've got a Fior di Latte mozzarella ball. And I'm just going to open that up and drain it. And I want to cut this into small cubes to put into the salad. Cubes or slivers, whatever you prefer. And you can toss them all around the salad. And as soon as those beetroots start to cool down, those can be tossed in the salad too. Now, earlier this week, when I made breakfast bowls, I grabbed a whole bunch of sunflower seeds and toasted those and then put them into a mason jar. So I'm going to toss a whole bunch of sunflower seeds over the salad. And I also made some quinoa. So I'm definitely going to sprinkle a whole load of quinoa over the salad too. This is a very simple salad to start. quinoa, sunflower seeds, beetroot, and carrots with a micro leaf and micro dress base. My beetroots are cooling down well. Then what I'm going to show you is a quick dressing. This is my go-to really fast dressing. And I'm going to take some olive oil, 100 mils of olive oil. A very small dash of balsamic vinegar. Now the quality of your vinegars are so important. To buy expensive vinegars, you don't use as much because of the taste that's coming out of them. So I've got a botanical vinegar here, and it is a lavender vinegar, and I figured lavender is kind of like the garden, and so are all of the root vegetables. So I'm going to put some lavender vinegar, 50 mils, so 2 parts olive oil to 1 part vinegar. And then my lemon tree is fresh out of lemons. I've used them all for morning lemon waters. So I'm just going to get some lemon juice and a squeeze of lemon juice. And then some beautiful Dijon mustard. About a half a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And some salt and pepper. Small pinch of salt. Small pinch of pepper. And my lid can go on this. This is a beautiful dressing mixer, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to give it a nice, beautiful shake. And that dressing is ready to go. Now my beets have cooled down sufficiently, so I'm just going to sprinkle beautiful beetroots all around the salad. You don't want to use too much beetroot. It is quite a strong flavor. You basically want it in every second or third bite. My dressing is ready to go. My beetroots that I'm not going to be eating can be put into the fridge to be used for the next couple of meals. As can my quinoa that I made day before yesterday. That can be used in breakfast bowls and salads. I'll just check on the carrot pitons. They still got a while to go. My potatoes are boiling away. They're still quite hard, so I'll keep those on the boil. And we're just about ready to go. As soon as the carrot batons and the potatoes are ready, I'll be able to pull the lamb out and serve. Excuse the helicopters, there is a fire in the valley. So my carrot batons, these beautiful golden crispy, almost like carrot chips, are ready to go. I'm just going to pop them into a container to cool down. They're sweet, they're crispy, absolutely beautiful. So in the salad, I've got all of the leaves, and then I've got a soft, creamy cheese, and then I have beetroots that are beautifully cooked with a little bit of crisp on the outside, some carrots that have a great crisp, and then I have quinoa for a bit of chewiness, and I have a crunch when it comes to the pumpkin seeds, or sunflower seeds at least. So I'm just going to scatter a whole load of these beautiful carrots all over the dish. And when you're ready, you can dress it ready to go. So my potatoes are now cooked. A knife passes easily through the potatoes. So I'm going to put them in a sieve. And just drain any excess water off of them. And then pop them back into the saucepan and get them ready to mash. So one of the key parts of mashing potatoes is to have butter. If you like, cow's milk can work, and it does make the mashed potatoes very creamy, but I generally stay away from milk, and it's not in my home. So I've grabbed a whole bunch of butter here. And with a whisk, my masher has disappeared somewhere. So I'm going to be using a whisk. And with the whisk, I can just start to mash the potatoes, incorporating that beautiful butter into the mash. I do find a whisk works really well if you don't have a masher. And then I start to move it around. And this beautiful mashed potato starts to get smooth and creamy. What I may do, even though it is quite sweet, just for a little bit of liquid, I will use some macadamia nut butter. Which can be quite sweet in itself, so I would definitely add a little bit of Celtic salt with all of its beautiful minerals. And slowly but surely mash those beautiful potatoes. And we'll get it all over the kitchen, Chantal. And the mash is good to go. Beautiful. Tastes absolutely amazing. So to give you a close-up of this beautiful salad, creamy, root goodness salad. It looks absolutely amazing. So when it's time to serve, I will just do a dollop of mashed potato, cut off a whole amount of the lamb shanks, and a beautiful serving of salad to go with it. Enjoy!